Hi, this is Dan Smith of DPS Legal Counsel, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about an issue that arises with businesses that have workers that they pay for doing various work responsibilities for their companies. And I'm kind of being careful what I call these workers other than just workers, because the whole issue is whether or not a worker should be classified as an independent contractor or as an employee. So if you have a business and you have workers that you've hired to do work for your company, do you treat them as employees or do you treat them as independent contractors? This is an important distinction that you have to be very careful to make by looking at all the circumstances and all the facts surrounding that particular worker. Because if you misclassify a worker as an independent contractor when that worker should actually be treated as an employee, you're going to have problems. First of all, if you've treated that worker as an independent contractor, you have not then withheld federal income tax from their pay, and you haven't withheld the payroll taxes, the Medicare and Social Security portions of payroll taxes from their pay. And if on an audit the IRS determines that that worker should have been treated as an employee rather than as an independent contractor, you've got these unpaid taxes that you have not withheld from the worker's pay that you're going to be responsible for. So it's a big issue. Now, in addition to problems that could arise with the Internal Revenue Service on tax matters, you also have issues that could arise with the federal or the U.S. Department of Labor if you misclassify your workers. For example, if you have workers that are should be treated as employees but you are treating as independent contractors, you may be requiring them to pay certain expenses that technically or more appropriately should be paid for by the company. And if they're required to pay those expenses, it may be that what you are paying those workers net of the expenses they are paying may be less than minimum wage. That would be a problem for your company. Another issue may be that they're working more hours than they're being paid for. In other words, are they getting overtime or not? If you're treating them as independent contractors, you're not paying them based on the federal labor laws dealing with overtime. But if they're employees, they should be getting overtime if they're working that many hours. And so these are just some of the issues that can arise if you misclassify a worker as a independent contractor when they should be classified as an employee. So you should, on the very front end, make sure that you're classifying your workers correctly. You need to review what the workers are doing, how much control you have over the workers, that type of thing with your counsel or your tax advisor on the very front end before you get into a problem. There has traditionally been what the IRS called the 20-factor test in determining whether a particular worker should be treated as an employee or as a independent contractor. The Internal Revenue Service has now moved to a slightly different test, which they call the 3-factor test, or it's the 20 factors kind of categorized within 3 broad categories dealing with behavioral control, financial control, and relationship. But the key thing is how much control. When you get down to it, how much control do you have over your workers? And you need to really look at this on the front end before you get into trouble. It's going to be a lot better if you classify your workers correctly on the front end than if you have to get either an audit from the Internal Revenue Service or from the Department of Labor, or you get a challenge from a worker who's disgruntled or dissatisfied with the way that you treated them as an independent contractor when they should have been treated as an employee. All right, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please let me know, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.